Nigeria's aviation sector has been losing between 17 to 21 billion naira monthly since the outbreak of COVID-19 in the country. Airports in Nigeria will also remain shut till June 7 as part of measures to control the spread of the novel coronavirus. With global civil aviation in dire straits and countries choosing to provide some form of support to airlines, Nigeria said it will provide a broad cushion for the economy, which includes aviation. But the International Air Transport Association is asking that the country announce an industry-specific support for civil aviation. The intervention and its kind is our focus this week. Plus, passport issuance rolls out skeletally at the Ikoyi Passport Office, and KLM resumes flights with new rules. We roll up right now.
Air transport has ground to a halt in efforts to stop the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. With a direct impact on jobs and companies in aviation, related industries including tourism, hospitality and trade have been hit hard and all play an essential role in creating jobs and powering economies. Starting in Portugal, the country's flag carrier, TAP, has resumed some of its international operations with a flight to London as lockdown measures imposed to combat the spread of the coronavirus are slowly being lifted in the tourism-dependent country. The flight to London Heathrow will also be followed by a second and another scheduled flight to Sao Paulo in Brazil on May 14. The airline is also extending a temporary layoff of around 90% of its airline employees, announced in March, until May the 31st. Now to Latin America, where its second largest airline, Avianca Holdings, has filed for bankruptcy after failing to meet a bond payment deadline, while its pleas for coronavirus aid from Colombia's government have so far been unsuccessful. If it fails to come out of bankruptcy, Bogota-based Avianca will be one of the first major carriers worldwide to go under as a result of the pandemic, which has crippled world travel. Avianca, the second oldest continually operating airline in the world after KLM, had $7.3 billion in debts in 2019. The airline filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in New York and said it will continue operations while it restructured its debts. Beyond Virgin Atlantic cutting 3,150 jobs, moving its flying program from London Gatwick to Heathrow as it counts the cost of the COVID-19 pandemic. The spread of the novel coronavirus has virtually brought airports around the globe to a standstill, leaving airlines taking drastic steps to make savings. The British Airline Pilots Association said it was a terrible blow for the industry and urged the government to stop prevaricating and help the aviation sector. In 2019, the Nigerian aviation sector was the fastest growing sector in Nigeria in real GDP terms, up 13.2% to 83.5 billion naira from 73.8 billion naira in 2018. However, the outbreak of the coronavirus in Nigeria has now threatened to derail the fast improving prospect of the industry. IATA estimates that the COVID-19 crisis puts 124,000 Nigerian jobs at risk and some $900 million of the country's GDP. The aftermath policies of the federal government in the bid to contain the spread of the coronavirus resulted in the shutdown of the Nigerian airspace since March the 22nd. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 recently announced a 4-week extension to the ban on both local and international air travel. Some believe it's timely and gives room to the sector to begin anew.
Rise up, dust up ourselves and start all over. This time around, we must start with the aim of getting it right. If there are things that we've been doing wrongly in the industry, it's time for us to actually improve and get it right. A lot of airlines right now, when operations start, will they even be able to afford to afford common nose mask? Because will you allow a passenger to board your flight without a nose mask, without checking his or her temperature, without sanitizing his or her hand?
We have had something similar, which is the Ebola virus, which affected air travel. And that actually caused a lot of airlines at that time to go under. Now we are having a scale that is global. International airlines are grounding their aircrafts, some up to 70 to 80% capacity, some totally suspending flights. This effect will be, there will be a domino effect on the local airlines, and the local airlines will not absorb the shock, because if government doesn't come to us to give us rescue.
The Nigerian government has introduced broad economic relief packages to mitigate the devastation caused by the COVID-19, which comes to a monthly loss of between 17 to 21 billion naira.
NCAA, which is the regulator, has been in touch with stakeholders, and we're developing the how to come back to businesses. If you look at what is going on, all of the income of that sector depends upon when you fly, and we're not able to do so. So this is really weighing on us heavily as an aviation industry. So we try the best that we can to resume as quickly as we can to ensure that the resumption is safe, resumption is secure, resumption is very efficient, and in the manner that we keep all of us safe and secure.
The International Air Transport Association, IATA, called for aviation-specific financial relief measures from the government of Nigeria to address the severe impact of the COVID-19 crisis on the air transport sector.
In the true sense of it, if we say that the aviation industry is the most affected, and we all know the important role that aviation does for any country, we need to understand that a lot of significance needs to be given to the aviation sector, because a lot of measures will have to come in place. Airlines will need to constantly fumigate their aircrafts. The airport terminal has to be constantly fumigated, put in additional measures that will not compromise the health of the intending travelers. So I believe that a huge sum of this should go to the industry. And aside this, I believe that the government should be able to give some sort of concession to our ailing domestic airlines so that they are able to still stay relevant post-COVID. Because if you really look at it, by the time they pay the huge taxes, they are left with nothing from, the existing business. So with this pandemic, it means that the business will just collapse totally. So my advice or contribution, as it may be, is that the government should give some concession in terms of taxes, maybe tax holiday for the domestic carriers so that they can stay relevant in the aviation industry. The airline needs a lot of support, because if you look at it, if the airlines don't fly, the airport authority will just be there. So what would they be doing? So the airline is the active ingredient in the scope of things. We must help them to keep the planes in the air. That way, they are able to move passengers from one location to another seamlessly. They are able to provide safety rather, to the passenger without them compromising. So I believe that the government should give priority to the airlines, then followed by giving priorities to other sectors within the industry. But I think the airline needs them most at this particular point in time. Likewise, it does not mean that the travel agencies should be neglected, because we are in the position of ensuring that the distribution of the airline inventories is done effectively. So if there's nothing to sell for them, what would the travel agencies be doing? And we have equally invested in a lot in different ways, including employing staff working with the travel agencies. When we're talking about recovery, I think it's very pertinent for us to understand that it's all about survival first. It is when you are alive that you can plan. When you are not alive, you can't plan. If we're talking about recovery for the airlines, we're talking about recovery for the industry. The question is, we should be talking, what are the plans put in place for survival? When we've survived the pandemic, then we can be planning for the future. As it is, every other plan that we probably put in place will not make sense. The pandemic has come to teach all of us a new lesson. And what's the new lesson? We've gotten to a point where we have to do a reset. Reset is start all over again. So after the pandemic, we will all start all over again. Not that we'll be comparing what we did last year against what we're doing this year. It calls for a total reset. And that's what I think we should be talking about. And when we're talking about total reset, then survival becomes the key element for us to move forward.
This is a cleaning robot on deployment at the Hong Kong's International Airport. A total of 10 robots are being used, including a couple that clean floors. The terminal is also testing out a disinfection booth for staff as the city lifts social distancing restrictions and authorities prepare for an expected jump in traffic in June.
Special one is we call it UV sterilization roboting. That one you're using in the public toilet. So that one with the UV plus the air sterilizing. So add together, we can have 99.99% efficiency. So we can kill all the virus and bacteria within 10 minutes. So this is another technology we have been using.
A robot being used in the public toilets emits ultraviolet rays and sprays disinfectant. It was first used on chartered flights that brought residents back to Hong Kong as the coronavirus spread in other countries.
We all learn a hard lesson during the SARS. And after the SARS, not only airport authority, government, hospital, we all develop different type of the contingency procedure to deal with we call it national disease outbreak. So actually this procedure, we found it very useful during the recent virus outbreak. Because of this procedure, so we can quickly respond to the outbreak.
The booth being tested out on staff sprays disinfectant for 40 seconds and uses facial recognition technology. The global aviation industry has been hit hard as global travel has been restricted. The airport's latest statistics show that 5,550 passenger flights arrived in Hong Kong in March, a drop in 82.1% compared with the same month last year.
When Aviation This Week returns, passport issuance with social distancing at the Ikoyi Passport Office. Do join us again.